Welcome, everyone. We are so glad to have you with us today for this custom-tailored deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
If you are joining us right now, you are in for quite a ride. Today, we are analyzing a really fascinating, incredibly dense stack of uh, audio monologues that were provided to us.
Dense is definitely the right word for it.
Right. And the individual speaking in these recordings weaves together an absolute maze of topics. I mean, we are talking about military artificial intelligence, cutting-edge bioengineering.
Complex telecommunications infrastructure.
Exactly. And massive global geopolitical shifts. The audio fuses all of these seemingly disparate elements into this highly complex alternative worldview.
It really does.
And our mission today is to untangle this dense web of theories for you. We're going to map out the connections the source material is making between everyday technology, like the smartphones sitting in your pocket right now, and unseen global surveillance network. Okay, let's unpack this.
That's good.
Segment 1 of our deep dive really centers on AI, autonomous weapons, and the surveillance state. The source material kicks off with a profound sense of frustration.
Yeah, the speaker sounds genuinely upset.
They do. They essentially argue that the general public is entirely oblivious to the reality of what they call lethal autonomous weapons systems, and they anchor this massive claim to something specific called Pentagon Directive 3009.
Right. Directive 3009.
What exactly is this directive, and why is the speaker so focused on it?
Well, Pentagon Directive 3009 is an actual Department of Defense document. It outlines policies for the development and use of autonomous and semi-autonomous weapons.
Okay, so it's a real thing.
It is. And according to our source material, this framework has been in active development behind closed doors since 2012.
Wow.
But the major claim the speaker emphatically makes is that this wasn't just a policy draft. They assert that a fully realized lethal autonomous weapons grid was globally deployed in January of 2023.
Wait, so they are claiming this is already a done deal?
That's the claim, yeah.
But to build credibility for a claim that massive, do they offer any historical precedents? I mean, how do they justify the idea that tech companies are actively building this?
The recordings point directly to a real historical event to back this up. They bring up the 2017 Google employee walkouts.
Oh, I remember that.
Right. For context, several years ago, Google employees allegedly refused to continue developing software for a Pentagon initiative known as Project Maven, or Smart Maven.
Okay.
The public narrative at the time was that these employees did not want to build autonomous tracking and targeting technology that could potentially be used in civilian spaces.
Makes sense.
So the overarching theory presented in our audio uses this 2017 walkout as a foundational proof of concept. The speaker's logic is that these autonomous surveillance systems aren't futuristic science fiction. They are a matter of historical record, and they have only become more advanced and integrated since the tech sector first pushed back.
But wait, how does the speaker explain what happened after the Google walkouts? If there was all this public pushback, did the military just pack up and go home?
Not according to the audio. The argument being built here is that when Google pushed back, the Pentagon simply took the Smart Maven architecture and quietly integrated it with other, much larger defense frameworks.
Like what?
The speaker specifically names two programs, MDSS Hades and the Ares program.
Got it.
To clarify those terms for you, MDSS stands for Multi-Domain Sensing System, which is theoretically about gathering massive amounts of intelligence from the air, space, and cyber domains.
And Ares?
Ares is related to data integration and communications. The speaker is highly frustrated that younger generations of software developers, the people currently building advanced consumer AI like Anthropic's Claude or OpenAI's models, are somehow surprised that AI is being used to orchestrate global weapons systems.
So they think the developers are just naive.
Basically. Our source material suggests that these integrated, lethal, autonomous networks are fully operational right now.
That is a massive leap from overseas drone targeting to everyday life, though. Did the speaker provide any real-world examples of how this supposedly military-grade tech is bleeding into our domestic spaces?
They did. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the speaker draws the direct, continuous line from international battlefields right into domestic neighborhoods.
How so?
A prime example they use involves Boston Dynamics. You know, the company famous for developing those highly agile, somewhat uncanny robotic dogs.
Right, the ones that do backflips on YouTube.
Exactly. The source material claims these specific robotic units were tested extensively for domestic law enforcement purposes between 2018 and 2020.
And the audio mentions a really specific anecdote regarding those robot dogs in New York, right? Something about how the public completely misinterpreted why they were there.
Precisely. The recordings note that when these robotic dogs were temporarily deployed by law enforcement in certain New York neighborhoods, local residents heavily criticized the move. They assumed the deployment was racially motivated or targeted at specific demographics.
But the speaker disagrees.
The speaker insists the locals completely missed the bigger picture. According to the audio, those neighborhoods were simply being used as broad, indiscriminate test beds for domestic robotic surveillance.
So just a testing ground.
Right. The claim is that it had nothing to do with racial targeting and everything to do with testing a massive, sweeping data-gathering operation.
Wow.
To further this point, the speaker also claims that Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, currently utilizes something called the DAPI Surveillance Database.
Yeah, fine. Yeah.
They allege this database was built 4 years ago, specifically to facilitate autonomous deportations without human oversight.
So the speaker is painting a picture where the barrier between a military war zone and a suburban street essentially no longer exists.
That's the worldview, yes.
But why? What is the ultimate goal of turning military AI inward on the domestic population?
This is where the source introduces a concept they refer to as Healthcare 4.0.
Healthcare 4.0.
The audio claims that these vast AI sensor systems, originally designed for battlefield intelligence and reconnaissance, are now being repurposed. The speaker theorizes that they are being used to passively deduce your eligibility for Social Security and healthcare benefits.
That is wild.
The implication is staggering. A military-grade artificial intelligence is allegedly processing your domestic, everyday civilian data to make bureaucratic, algorithmic decisions about your life and health.
This, which brings us to the next massive pillar of the worldview we are analyzing today. Because if an algorithm is surveilling everyone to manage Healthcare 4.0, how exactly are they gathering that biological data? Do they think we are all wearing smartwatches?
Well, no.
Right, because the speaker's background is actually in computer networking, correct? They mention working at a Charter Communications head-end facility.
I do.
For those who might not know, a head-end is essentially a master facility for receiving television and internet signals for processing and distribution. The speaker talks about dealing with emergency broadcast systems, complex routing, and dark fiber.
Which is unused, vast networks of underground optical glass.
Exactly. This deep technical background informs what is arguably the most startling claim in the entire stack of audio. The idea that the network isn't just around us. It is us.
That is the core of their argument. The source relies heavily on terminology blending biomedical engineering with traditional IT networking.
It's a very unique vocabulary.
It is. The speaker references a specific 2015 DARPA project at Tufts University, which they summarize as cracking the bioelectric code.
Cracking the bioelectric code.
Yeah, and they repeatedly use the phrase, the Internet of Bio-Nano Things. According to the logic of the audio, biological human bodies are currently actively being integrated into digital networks.
Here's where it gets really interesting. How does the speaker claim this integration actually works without people noticing? Because they aren't talking about surgical implants. They mention something called MCIDs.
Right. For a bit of technical context, a MACID, or Media Access Control Address, is traditionally a unique alphanumeric identifier assigned to a network interface controller.
So it's how a router tells the difference between your laptop and your smartphone.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But the speaker makes the extraordinary claim that human biosignals are actually being assigned unique MACIDs.
Human signals.
Yes. They assert this conceptual framework originated from Xerox engineers roughly 40 years ago, but was vastly modernized around 2011 through something the speaker calls terahertz development.
Let's clarify that term for the listener, because terahertz gets dropped as a bit of a buzzword in the audio. What are terahertz frequencies, and how do they relate to reading the human body?
Terahertz radiation sits right between microwaves and infrared light on the electromagnetic spectrum. It is highly effective at penetrating certain materials, which is why it's commonly used in those full-body airport security scanners.
Oh, okay.
The speaker is claiming that this specific, highly sensitive frequency range has been developed to remotely read our biological data.
And just to underscore a major distinction the speaker makes, they are incredibly critical of other alternative thinkers who believe that people have been secretly injected with physical microchips. The speaker completely rejects the microchip theory, right?
Absolutely. The recordings are adamant that rigid microchips are entirely unnecessary and represent outdated thinking.
So, no chips at all.
None. According to the audio, this massive surveillance apparatus relies completely on the natural human peripheral nervous system. They claim your own biology, your living tissue, your cells, your neurotransmitters, acts as the transmission media.
I want you, the listener, to just pause and imagine how the speaker is framing reality. Imagine walking through your daily life. You are going to the grocery store, you are sitting in your living room watching TV, and according to this source, your breathing, your heart rate, and your natural physiological baseline are being actively read by what the speaker calls non-contact human activity recognition radar.
It's quite an image.
It really is. The argument is that you are a walking, breathing node on a digital network, constantly emitting a biological signal that an overarching AI is cataloging. It is a complete fundamental reframing of how we view our own biology and bodily autonomy.
This raises an important question, which the speaker spends a significant portion of the audio addressing. If this technology is invisible, wireless, and seamlessly integrated into our natural nervous system, how are people trying to fight it?
Good question.
And why does the speaker violently disagree with the methods being used by other groups? This leads us straight into a very intense, highly technical, factional conflict within the audio.
Yes, the speaker spends a lot of time feuding with other figures in the alternative information space. They specifically call out a group they refer to as the Flynn Network, and they aim a massive amount of criticism at a man named Jesse Beltran.
Yes, Beltran comes up a lot.
Now, the audio claims that Beltran uses a highly specialized piece of equipment, a nonlinear junction detector. These are real devices, usually costing between $30,000 and $40,000, commonly used by intelligence agencies to find hidden listening bugs or electronics hidden in walls.
Real spy tech.
Exactly. Beltran allegedly uses this device to fire radio frequency, or RF, pulses at the human body to find hidden nanodevices. The theory Beltran supposedly operates on is that if a metallic nanodevice is inside you, it will respond to the RF pulse. Why does our source think this is a terrible idea?
The speaker completely dismisses Beltran's methodology as obsolete. The audio argues that using RF pulses to find modern nanotechnology is like using 1990s technology to solve a 2020s problem.
So they think it just won't work.
Right. The speaker claims that modern nano networks are engineered biomimetically. Biomimetic means that the technology is designed to perfectly mimic natural human biology, and the audio claims this is achieved using something called synthetic biology open language.
That is another incredibly dense term. What exactly does synthetic biology open language practically mean in the context of these claims?
In the real world, synthetic biology open language, or SBOL, is a recognized data standard used by genetic engineers to design biological systems. It is basically a coding language for synthetic DNA.
Okay.
The speaker is claiming that this real-world standard is being weaponized. Because these nanosensors are designed to mimic natural cells at a structural level, the speaker claims they can easily hide from the body's immune system and are specifically engineered to shield themselves from external radio frequencies.
So a detector wouldn't pick them up.
Exactly. Therefore, firing a $40,000 RF detector at someone would yield absolutely nothing.
To back up this claim that wireless human communication has been vulnerable for a long time, the speaker cites some chilling historical details. They mention a famous cybersecurity hacker named Barnaby Jack.
Yes, a very well-known figure in the hacking community.
Barnaby Jack was legendary for figuring out how to make ATMs spit out cash, but he later moved into medical device security. He tragically died in 2012, just days before he was scheduled to give a presentation at a DEF CON hacker conference.
His presentation was allegedly going to prove that it is actually easier to digitally hack a human body's medical devices than it is to hack a modern car.
And the audio pairs that with the well-documented fact that former Vice President Dick Cheney literally had the Wi-Fi capability of his implanted pacemaker disabled back in 2007 because he legitimately feared political assassination via wireless hacking.
That's a true story. The speaker is using these real historical examples to say, look, wireless human-body communication has been a known vulnerability for over a decade. The technology has evolved way past simple radio frequency chips.
This intense technical disagreement over RF shielding acts as a bridge to the speaker's most urgent warning, a massive, sweeping condemnation of zeolite supplements.
This part is very intense.
Within certain alternative health and wellness communities, zeolite is heavily marketed as a natural detoxifier. People take it believing it can cleanse the body of heavy metals or even nanoparticles. The speaker is absolutely furious about this practice.
Furious might be an understatement. The speaker firmly believed that zeolite is the exact opposite of a detoxifier. According to the audio, the zeolite products being heavily promoted by people like Beltran and the Flynn Network are actually highly engineered nanolipid payloads designed specifically for biosensing.
This is where the biological claims get incredibly intricate. The speaker claims zeolite resurfaces the topology of your cells. To visualize this for you, the listener, imagine your healthy cells are smooth glass marbles.
Okay, smooth marbles.
According to the audio, the supplement allegedly acts like microscopic Velcro, wrapping around those marbles so that artificial intelligence networks can stick to them, lock up your immune system's natural enzymes, and extract your biological data.
It's a terrifying concept.
They're essentially accusing health influencers of tricking people into swallowing the very surveillance tech they're trying to avoid.
And the speaker goes so far as to explicitly compare drinking zeolite supplements to taking the Moderna or Pfizer vaccines.
Really?
Yes, they claim that both the mRNA shots and the zeolite supplements are just different delivery mechanics achieving the exact same goal: remote health monitoring and biosignal extraction.
Wow.
The speaker intensely warns that these zeolite derivatives should absolutely never be given to children under 13 because it allegedly forces their still developing peripheral nervous systems onto this digital surveillance grid permanently.
So if we step back, we have a worldview where military AI has merged with domestic healthcare surveillance. Human bodies are allegedly being networked without their consent via their own nervous systems, and popular health supplements are actually weaponized biosensors.
That's the landscape they've painted.
But the audio doesn't stop at biology and networking technology. How does a speaker go from microscopic biosensors to ancient biblical lore? Because they wrap all of this into a massive geopolitical and religious framework.
Yes, the transition is jarring, but it is central to their worldview. We have to carefully outline the geopolitical dimensions of this source material. Again, remaining strictly neutral, we are just reporting the arguments contained in the audio.
Right.
The speaker claims that there are deep ideological factions currently operating at the highest levels of the Pentagon who view former President Donald Trump not just as a politician, but as a prophetic figure.
Prophetic.
Furthermore, the speaker asserts that these military factions believe recent, real-world global bombings in the Middle East are not just geopolitical conflicts, but the literal start of prophesied religious holy wars between Zionists and Muslims.
And they don't just stick to modern religion, they dive deep into the occult. They mention the Nephilim, which, for context, are mysterious giants or fallen angels mentioned in the biblical book of Genesis.
They do.
Suggesting that ancient supernatural conflicts are actively being orchestrated today through this technology. They claim Archangel Gabriel is somehow involved in orchestrating these global conflicts to push humanity toward destroying itself.
They also bring up the Knights Templar, the famous medieval Christian military order. The speaker spends time pointing out that Baphomet, which is widely considered a goat-headed demon in popular occult culture, was actually just a historical cipher.
A cipher.
Specifically, the Atbash cipher used for sending encrypted secret messages during the Crusades, not a literal demon.
What's fascinating here is how does a person actually function believing they are caught in a matrix of autonomous military AI, microscopic cellular biosensors, and orchestrated biblical holy wars? The psychological weight of that must be crushing.
The audio actually gives us a very clear window into the psychological and emotional toll this worldview takes on the speaker. They talk openly and intensely about the deep anxiety of living in a world of what they call neuromodulation.
Neuromodulation.
They describe the absolute betrayal of feeling like augmented humans are walking among us every day. Everyday people who have supposedly integrated with this technology, either willingly for convenience or entirely unwillingly.
That sounds incredibly isolating.
The speaker describes a profound sense of isolation. They feel like they're one of the only people who can read the diagrams and see the truth of this molecular communication, while everyone else is either playing dumb or actively being gaslit by alternative health influencers selling them fake zeolite cures.
But the speaker isn't just venting into a microphone. They are actively trying to provide solutions and a sense of agency to their community. They mention a book called Dominion 3, which they highly recommend their listeners buy.
Right.
They suggest using highlighters to study it and learn the precise technical terminology required to describe this invisible technology.
And that education centers on something they call voluntary biofield coherence.
Voluntary biofield coherence. What is that?
This seems to be a conceptual method of gaining profound, conscious control over your own peripheral nervous system and biological emissions. so that your biosignals cannot be easily extracted or manipulated by these AI radar systems.
So taking back control.
Yes, they are pleading with their audience to stop looking for magical physical solutions, like buying $40,000 RF detectors or taking zeolite detoxes, and instead focus on understanding the origin of the biological signal, which is the human body itself.
So what does this all mean? Let's take a breath and summarize this intense, mind-bending journey. We started with the claim that Pentagon AI programs like Smart Maven caused Google employee walkouts, only to be secretly integrated into massive data frameworks like Hades and deployed globally.
Right.
We then explored the speaker's assertion that this military tech evolved into healthcare 4.0 using non-contact terahertz radar to assign MAIDs directly to the human peripheral nervous system.
And then the supplements.
From there, we navigated the intense, highly technical debates over whether zeolite supplements are helpful detoxifiers or actually synthetic biological payloads, like microscopic Velcro, designed to turn your cells into biosensors.
A lot of ground covered.
And finally, we saw how the speaker frames all of this within a grand, sweeping narrative involving prophetic Pentagon factions, biblical angels, and a desperate push to teach people how to reclaim their own bioelectric fields.
It is an incredibly dense, almost overwhelming synthesis of information. But bringing this back to you, the listener, even if you do not subscribe to a single one of these theories, this deep dive serves as an utterly fascinating case study in human psychology.
Absolutely.
This entire worldview is an extreme manifestation of tech anxiety. We are living in an era defined by the rapid, completely opaque acceleration of artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and data surveillance. The average person does not truly understand how a basic algorithm curates their social media feed, let alone how a massive agency like DARPA develops bioelectronic medicine.
It's a black box for most of us.
This audio shows us that when technology vastly outpaces public comprehension, it births incredibly intricate, highly tech-literate counter-narratives. It is a fascinating look at how traditional health anxieties, like worrying about heavy metals in the water, are being updated for the digital age, replaced by a fear of microscopic AI sensors. It reveals how deeply people are searching for agency, control, and understanding in a hyper-connected, deeply surveilled world.
That is perfectly said. It's ultimately about the human desire to make sense of the invisible, incredibly complex forces shaping our modern lives. And we want to leave you with a final thought to ponder today, something that builds on the themes of the audio we just explored.
What's the thought?
We know for a scientific fact that our bodies inherently emit biological and electrical signals. Body heat, a resting heart rate, the electrical impulses in our brain. And we know that everyday technology is constantly evolving to read environmental data to make our devices smarter and more responsive.
That's just the reality of modern tech?
So, where exactly is the line between our natural physical presence and our digital footprint? Could simply existing in a modern smart city soon mean that you are constantly broadcasting your physiological state to the network around you, regardless of whether you ever choose to wear a smartwatch or carry a phone?
It's a heavy question.
It's something to think about the next time you walk through a set of automatic doors. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive, and we will catch you next time.